Good evening and welcome into Sports Talk on a Budget. It is Monday, September 22nd, year of our Lord 2025. We are in the thick of it in both college football and the NFL, so a lot to get into. But before I go ahead and get into the topics and get into the show, let me remind you, as always, if you like the video version of this podcast, please smash that subscribe. Please smash that like on YouTube here. Leave a comment with some of your constructive criticism there as well. I'd love to see that. However, if you prefer the audio version of this podcast, please go ahead and like and subscribe on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or pretty much wherever you get your podcast. And go follow me on all the social medias. You can find me either under Kody Kovers or Sports Talk on a Budget on places like Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, TikTok, Instagram. I'm basically in LinkedIn. I'm available on any social media basically that you have out there under either one of those names. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the tops of the show. So this is going to be my full reaction show to what I saw in both week 4 in college football and week 3 in the NFL. Going to give you, like I said, my full reaction to everything I saw this weekend. Big weekend in both sports. I think there was a lot of things that happened, a lot of takeaways from both sports, a lot of things to talk about. So first topic of the day is going to be my week 4 college football reaction. Like I said, a lot of things happen in college football, a lot of things to react to, some really interesting results from this past weekend. So going to give my full reaction there. Then my full reaction to week 3 in the NFL. I know the Ravens and the Lions are playing right now, so I can't react to that game, but I'm going to react to everything else I saw yesterday and last night as well. And then finally, I'll give you my week 5 college football picks and week 4 NFL picks in the segment we are calling Kody's Covers that will end every show of the football season. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the show. So as I mentioned, my first topic is going to be my week 4 college football reaction. And like I said, a lot of things happened in college football this weekend. There was a lot of results, a lot of interesting results. And the first thing I'm going to go ahead and react to is what happened in Death Valley in Clemson, South Carolina. And Clemson, they were hammered at home by Syracuse. I think they ended up losing that game like 31-14 or something like that. They were down 24-7 at halftime. They had to rain delay, so it was a weird game. It was kind of a long day for anybody in Clemson, not just because of the result, but the game took forever because of the rain delay. So an interesting result, to say the least, in Clemson. And I feel like we've had this conversation about Clemson every year for the past couple of years. Where are they? Where are they as a program? And last year they won the ACC, and they came back with all these returning starters. You had Cade Klubnik, you had studs at wide receiver, you had studs along the defensive line. And everybody thought, including me, they were my national title pick, so I won't shy away from that. That is not going to happen. That is not going to happen. I was dead wrong in that result and in that prediction, but they were a team that a lot of people were circling could contend for a national title. Certainly everybody had them penciled in as the ACC champion, and that's probably not going to happen since they're already 0-2 in the conference. But like I said, I feel like we've had this conversation about Clemson and Dabo Swinney the last couple of years. They have not adopted and adapted to modern day college football. They finally got some transfers last year. They only got 2 though. They only got 2 transfers in this offseason. And the previous years, it was them and the service academies were the only teams that weren't bringing in transfers. And when you see these games, yes, Clemson is immensely talented. They do really well recruiting. Now, they're not doing as well in high school recruiting that they have in the past, but they still recruit really well in the high school ranks. But that's not enough anymore. That's not enough. Ohio State recruits really well. They also hit the transfer portal. Georgia recruits really well. They also hit the transfer portal. Oregon recruits really well. They also hit the transfer portal. And how these elite programs and elite teams use the transfer portal, they use it as kind of like, okay, we didn't recruit a guy at this position that's ready. We're going to fill it with the transfer portal. We have a couple of places where we're not exactly up to national championship level. We're going to go into the transfer portal. We're going to spend some money in NIL, and we're going to get those positions there. It's fill-in positions. You're not loading up your roster with 30-plus guys like Florida State did a couple years ago, or USC or North Carolina did this year, or Colorado's done in the past as well. You're not doing that. You don't have to do that because you recruit well enough in high school. But what you need to do is fill those spots where you're not exactly up to snuff to compete for a national championship, and that could take you over the top. Look at this Ohio State team last year. They had a ton of returning production all over the place. What did they do? They found their quarterback in the transfer portal. They found one of their running backs in Quinshon Judkins in the transfer portal. They found Caleb Downs, one of the best defensive players in the country, in the transfer portal. What did those additions do that got them over the top and that helped them win a national championship? And there's a list goes on and on of teams doing this. And Clemson and Dabo Swinney, I don't know if stubbornness, I don't know if it's their culture or whatever they want to call it, they have not decided to take part in that. And the results are showing on the field. Because yes, their talent is still really good from the high school ranks, but they're not developing as well as they used to. And they're just still missing in certain areas. And a thing that I never thought I would say for Clemson and a Dabo Swinney-led Clemson team is effort. I never thought there'd be a lack of effort by the team, but there is a lack of effort right now. There is a lack of effort, and I think when you have a coach, when you have someone who's been in a position for a very long time, Dabo Swinney has either been the assistant coach or head coach at Clemson for 23 years. What happens sometimes is that voice kind of falls on deaf ears. That voice doesn't get the respect that it used to, doesn't get listened to or heard as well as it used to, and then it becomes a little stale. And I think that's what's going on at Clemson. Now, Dabo Swinney is still a Hall of Fame coach. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame coach in college football. He's one of the best coaches of the 21st century in college football. There's no question, there's no doubt about that. But I think a change of scenery for both him and the Clemson program is potentially needed here. Because Dabo Swinney, if he was let go or if they were decided to part ways, he would get a job basically the next day if he wanted one. And I think at the end of the day, I think it's time to have that conversation in Clemson because things on the field are not good and it's getting progressively worse. Like I said, you're 0-2 in the conference. You're 1-3 overall, and you were very close to being 0-4 and losing at home to Troy. So it's not good right now. It does not look good right now for Clemson. And I just don't know with the way they run their program and their strategy if there is a way out of this, especially with you see what Miami's doing. Brent Key is doing a really good job at Georgia Tech. They're building up a good program there. I think Florida State's found their right coordinators and coaching staff. They're going to be good for a while now. So the teams in your conference are getting better and you're getting worse. And that cannot happen. And those teams are willing to adapt to 2025 college football. You're playing college football in 2015. That's what you're doing, and it's not working right now in 2025. So like I said, I think it's time to have that conversation about Dabo. I wouldn't fire him, but I would maybe talk to him like maybe this is not the right fit for you anymore. Maybe we need to look in a different direction. You go your way, we'll go our way. We'll both land at our feet and do fine. But I think it's just time to move on at this point, or at least have that conversation about Dabo Swinney. My second reaction from this weekend is Indiana is real again. Indiana is real again, and they are probably better than what they were last year. They beat Illinois at home 63-10. And that was an Illinois team that a lot of people had going to the playoff. A lot of people had as maybe the fourth best team in the Big Ten after the Big Three. And they absolutely hammered them. And Fernando Mendoza, I believe, is an upgrade over Curtis Rourke at quarterback. They used the transfer portal to their advantage as well. They're using NIL to their advantage. They've been able to supplement roster spots and get this team to look like a Big Ten contender again. Kurt Cignetti, yes, you can Google him. He wins, and that's all he's done at at Indiana. He has won. And that was super impressive. I thought Illinois would go in there and potentially win the game or at least cover. I was dead wrong there as well. Indiana surprised me and a lot of people. And I think they're a true contender right now in the Big Ten if they can continue playing anywhere close to what they did on Saturday night. And then another big reaction for me is in the Big 12, and that's Texas Tech. And Texas Tech, I think, is the favorite right now, and I think they're a pretty overwhelming favorite right now to be the Big 12 champions. They went into Utah, and they were the physical team. They were the team that pushed the other team around. Utah was supposed to have one of the best offensive lines in the country, and Texas Tech's defensive front pushed them around all game. They even had an injury at quarterback, and the backup quarterback came in, and they scored 24 points in the fourth quarter. This team is kind of a step above the rest when it comes to talent. Now, I thought, yes, they've used the transfer portal, they've used NIL, they've brought in a lot of talent. I thought it would take a year or so to develop that into a contending team. I was wrong. They're ready to contend right now in the Big 12, and I think they could potentially contend for even more. This roster is absolutely loaded. Their cash cow, Cody Campbell, the tycoon, he has helped build that roster into a legit contender. Joey McGuire has always been able to coach, whether it's at the high school ranks and now at the college ranks. Always been a good coach, so I think he'll be fine there. But this Texas Tech team is absolutely the favorite in the Big 12. And then my final reaction, yes, we've talked a lot of hot seat. We're going to talk it again. And I don't like to talk about that because I don't like to talk hot seat talk when it comes to coaches. But there's two more guys that I don't think will finish the season with their respective programs. And that is Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, and that is Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. And the Gundy situation at Oklahoma State is very similar to the Dabo Swinney conversation. Gundy's been there forever. He was a player there. He was an assistant coach there. I think he was a GA there. And now he's been the head coach for 20 plus years. And that program, they lost to Tulsa on Friday night. I believe they're 1-3 as well. That program looks dead. They look absolutely lifeless. They were awful last year. They didn't even win a conference game last year in the Big 12. They are not looking good again this year. He talked all the smack against Oregon, and then they went up there and got absolutely hammered by Oregon. So Gundy, I feel like Dabo is like Dabo Swinney, but worse, because he doesn't have the recent success that Dabo Swinney has. At least Dabo Swinney could be like, hey, I've won two of the last three ACC championship games, ACC championships, and I think 7 of the last 8. Gundy, I think, won one 4 years ago or something like that, and he really hasn't been anywhere competitive since, and that's with Oklahoma and Texas leaving the conference. He's still not competitive there either. So I think it's time to make a change at Oklahoma State. I think that's another situation where the voice is kind of falling on deaf ears, and the respect level that coach used to get from his players is totally gone, and the effort there is totally gone. So I think the writing's on the wall for Gundy. They may let him finish the season just out of respect because how long he's been there. He's alumni. He's kind of their first son of Oklahoma State football, but I think this is the last year Mike Gundy will be the head coach of the Oklahoma State Cowboys. And then Luke Fickell. Luke Fickell just has not worked at Wisconsin. It's not a good scheme fit. Wisconsin forever was this hard-nosed team. They ran the football. They played good defense. They had a great offensive lineman. Now you try to go in there and you try to be a spread offense. It's just not a fit. You can't recruit in that area for the spread offense. You're not going to get the athletes that you can get when you compete against the other teams recruiting for those same athletes to Wisconsin. So it's not been a good fit for Luke Fickell. I think he'll find another job. He'll probably have to go to the group of 4 or the group of 5 for a minute to get another job, but has not been a good fit. They got hammered on Saturday by Maryland as well. So not a good fit. I think Luke Fickell, I think unlike Gundy, he hasn't been there. He hasn't earned the respect of Wisconsin. I think we could see Luke Fickell losing his job in the next few weeks. I just think the writing's on the wall, and I think it's going to happen. So those are my biggest reactions from college football this past weekend. Let's go ahead and move to the NFL. I have a lot of reactions and things to react to from that as well. And the first one is that Rams-Eagles game. The Rams let a huge opportunity slip through their fingers in Philadelphia. They were up 26-7 in this game, were absolutely controlling every facet of this football game, and took their foot off the gas. Credit to Philadelphia for coming back, never giving up, and fighting to the finish, but the Rams absolutely let an opportunity slip through their fingers. You had an opportunity. The Packers had already lost. You were on the road against the defending champions in the NFC and defending Super Bowl champions. You had the opportunity to kind of be like, hey, we're the best in the NFC right now. We went into Philadelphia and pushed Philadelphia around and beat them. You let them back in the game. You kind of sputtered down the stretch in the third and fourth quarters, and you let Philadelphia push you around and get back into the game and win that game. So that's my first reaction to Sunday, was the Rams absolutely let a huge opportunity slip through their fingers. I think the Rams will be fine, but this game could be a huge factor in the playoff seeding down the road, and that could really hurt the Rams because I think they had this game at hand and let their foot off the gas and let a huge opportunity slip right through their fingers. Number 2 is the Green Bay Packers. They got a wake-up call. Everybody, including me, was basically putting the Packers in the Super Bowl, was saying they were the best team in the NFC, potentially the best team in the NFL, and they got a wake-up call. Now, I still think the Packers are a really good team. I still think they'll contend for an NFC championship this year. But one of the reasons I had a little bit of trepidation for the Packers this offseason before they got Micah Parsons was Jordan Love. And Jordan Love has a tendency to play inconsistent football. Those first 2 weeks of the season, he looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Yesterday, he was flat awful. And give a lot of credit to that Cleveland defensive front and Myles Garrett and those boys. They got after him, and they made life uncomfortable for him. And when that happens with Jordan Love, he can get rattled very easily. So that's why I still think I need to see that improvement. I need to see that next step from Jordan Love to really call this team the number one Super Bowl contender. Like I said, I still think they're a really good team. I still think they'll contend for a lot of big things this year. But I'm going to hold a little bit of trepidation with this team because of Jordan Love. I just think that he's a good quarterback, but he's a guy you can rattle, and he's a guy who is inconsistent at times, and we saw that on Sunday. So I need to see a little bit more and a little bit more consistency from Jordan Love to really put them in that number one spot as a number one Super Bowl contender. We'll stay in the NFC North. And my biggest question is the Bears offense and Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson fixed, or is the Dallas Cowboys defense that bad? I think it's about 60-40. I'll give the Bears credit to start. They were great on offense. Caleb Williams had a really good game. Yes, he was throwing to open receivers, but he played really well. He played poised. He played within the system. He was making quick decisions. He was making accurate throws. He played within the system, and that's all Ben Johnson is asking him to do. And he was able to show off why he was a major prospect coming in the NFL. That flea flicker throw, he has an absolute rocket. He has an absolute cannon, and that throw right there showcased why he was a top level prospect, not just coming out of high school, but of course coming out of college, going in the NFL. So hats off to the Bears. And this is, even if the Cowboys defense is awful, what this could do for the Bears and Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, this kind of result could give them confidence. Yes, I know you're going to face much better opponents throughout the season on defense, but this is a game you can gain your confidence and be like, hey, we can do this. Those guys on the other side are still in the NFL. There's still 11 of the best, 100 players on defense in the NFL, or 11 of the best 500 people walking this earth on defense. So they're still NFL players. It's still an NFL scheme, and we still put it to them, and it could have been a lot worse. So you still have to take something from that, and you can build off of that. Build that confidence. Go into next week when you're playing the Raiders, another team that you should beat. Go into next week and have that confidence and play with that same confidence and play with that same swagger and see if you can't let it snowball from there. So either way, I think a lot of it was the Cowboys defense. They're going to be a lot of teams get right game on offense. It's like, okay, we're struggling. Oh, we got the Cowboys on the schedule. We'll get right that week. That's going to be kind of a common theme throughout the season, I think. But if you're the Bears, take away from this game the confidence that you played with and build on that, go forward and improve and get better. So it's not just everybody's like, yeah, but it was the Cowboys defense. No, it's like, hey, this offense has something. This quarterback has something. They could be something as well. So build off of that and build some confidence moving forward. And then finally, my last reaction to the NFL weekend is going to be the LA Chargers. The LA Chargers are absolutely in the driver's seat in the AFC West. They're 3-0, and all three of their wins are division wins. They opened the season in Brazil, beating the Chiefs. They won last Monday night against the Raiders, and then they won this Sunday against the Broncos. And they're doing it in different ways. Against the Chiefs, it was the Justin Herbert show. He had a really great game. Against the Raiders, it was the defense and timely plays by Justin Herbert. And then this past week, it was that as well. Their defense stepped up in ways, and Justin Herbert made plays when he needed to, and they beat a pretty darn good Broncos team, in my opinion. Like I said, they're in the driver's seat in the AFC West. Harbaugh, Herbert, this team is going in the right direction. They're looking like they could be a contender in the AFC to get to the Super Bowl. Maybe not quite there yet, but like I said, at the end of the day, they're absolutely in the driver's seat to get a division win and finally get someone to win that division outside of the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs have won the division like 8 years in a row. So the Chargers are absolutely in the driver's seat in the AFC West. So those have been my reactions to the NFL and college football, everything we saw and the results we saw this past weekend. Now we'll go ahead and finish my show as I always do, and we're going to do Kody's Covers college football week 5 and Kody's Covers NFL week 4. Let's go ahead and start in college football. And I don't like to pick my teams. I was actually wrong when picking the Patriots this last weekend, but I'm going to start college football off with my team USC playing. That's number 21 USC at number 23 Illinois. And USC is currently a 6.5 point favorite in this game. Now, how does Illinois respond to absolutely getting bludgeoned last week? They had some injuries in the secondary as well. That fact right there, their injuries and their thinness in the secondary, I think is going to be their undoing. Mekhi Lemon and Jaden Mayava. Mekhi Lemon is one of the best wide receivers in the country for USC. Jaden Mayava is playing outside of his mind, one of the most improved players in all of college football. That's really going to hurt Illinois. And what USC has this year that they haven't had in a while is a consistent run game with Wayman Jordan and Eli Sanders. and a consistent pass rush. They get after the quarterback, whether it's Anthony Lucas, Floyd Picard, Jakeem Stewart, the freshman, Cameron Fountain, or Cameron Crawford. Now he changed his name on Saturday. That was kind of a weird situation. But yeah, they get after the quarterback. So can they get after Altmaier? Altmaier was hit all day against Indiana. So I think too much firepower on the defensive front for the USC, too much firepower in the passing game against the banged up secondary for Illinois leads to a long day for Illinois and a USC cover and a USC win. Give me USC to win. Give me USC to cover. USC -6.5 is a play there. Sneaky good game will stay in the Big Ten, and that is number 1 Ohio State at Washington, and Ohio State is currently a 9.5 point favorite on the road in Washington. Washington might be the best team that nobody's talking about. Damon Williams, their quarterback, he's a really good player. Jonah Coleman, their running back, he's also a really good player. Jed Fish, their coach, is also a really good coach. This Washington team, like I said, may be the best team that nobody's talking about. And something else that a lot of people don't talk about unless they've been there, and I haven't been there, but I've heard, Washington is a tough place to play. You go up there in the Pacific Northwest, they have a really good home field advantage. It's not the biggest stadium, but they get loud and they get after it. This is going to be a tough place to play. I think Ohio State goes in there and gets a victory, but I think Washington makes it tough on them, and I think Washington covers. So give me Washington plus 9.5 in this game. Now we're going to move to the SEC, and we have a huge game, 2 huge games in the SEC. First one I'm going to talk about is number 4 LSU at I think it's number 11 right now, Ole Miss. I missed on that. I didn't put it up there. But either way, huge game this weekend. LSU had a bye. They've been off, but their offense has sputtered throughout the season. Their defense with Blake Baker at the helm has been awesome all year long. Has been awesome. They play really good defense. They get after the quarterback. They're really good in the secondary. They got 5 interceptions from DJ Lagway. That was partly on him and partly on their defense as well. But the offense, Garrett Nussmeier looks like he's been banged up a little bit. Their run game hasn't really gotten going. And you look on the other side of the field, and you have Ole Miss there. And whether it's Austin Simmons playing quarterback or it's Trinidad Chambliss, I think it's Trinidad Chambliss is the name. Whoever's playing quarterback for Ole Miss, they score points. They absolutely hammered a good Tulane team from the Group of 5 this weekend. They beat a good Arkansas team the week before. This is a team that's going to score points. Ole Miss is a 1.5 point favorite in this game. Oxford's a tough place to play. LSU is kind of like their biggest rival outside of Mississippi State in the SEC. So this is a game that's been a really high-scoring affair, and I think it will be a decent high-scoring affair as well. I just don't trust the LSU offense right now, and I think Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin will get their points at some point in this game. So give me Ole Miss to win. Give me Ole Miss to cover. Ole Miss -1.5 is the play there. Then we're going to move back to the Big Ten. And we have the whiteout game, one of the biggest games of the weekend, one of the biggest games of the year. And that's number 6, Oregon, and number 3, Penn State. And Penn State is a 3.5 point favorite in this game. Neither one of these teams has really been tested all year, but Oregon has at least played better opponents in Northwestern and I guess Oklahoma State, if you want to call that there a little bit. And then they got a really big win this past weekend as well. So Oregon has at least been they've played a couple of Big Ten games. They've played better competition. Penn State has played nobody. They've played 2 FCS schools in Nevada. They've played absolutely nobody this year, and they really haven't looked great either. Drew Aller's kind of struggled, so I don't think Penn State's been battle-tested. I think Oregon's absolutely battle-tested. Dan Lanning's one of my favorite coaches in the league. Dante Moore is playing really, really well. So I think this Oregon team, they're not afraid to go into anywhere and play anybody anywhere. They'll play someone in the fucking parking lot if they have to. So I think Oregon goes in there, and I think they get the victory. I think they walk out of the whiteout in Happy Valley with the victory. Give me Oregon to cover, so Oregon plus 3.5. And I would sprinkle some money line on Oregon as well. I think they win the game outright. Finally, we end in the SEC in a massive, massive, massive game in the SEC, and that is number 17, Alabama, and number 5, Georgia, and Georgia is currently a 3.5 point favorite in this game. Now, both these teams are coming off bye, so they're both well-rested. Alabama drubbed Wisconsin in their last outing, and Georgia had that comeback victory in overtime against Tennessee. For me, Alabama, they played UL Monroe and Wisconsin since the Florida State game. Don't know what to take because both those programs and teams aren't very good. Georgia went in on the road against Tennessee, got a victory. Georgia hasn't lost a home game in a very long time. I think this Georgia team is just a better overall team. They're better right now. Gunnar Stockton looked really good against Tennessee. I think they're going to run the ball well. Their defense should play better and maybe get to Ty Simpson a little bit. I just don't trust this Alabama team in Georgia to go in there and get a victory. So I think Georgia wins. I think Georgia covers. Give me Georgia -3.5 in this game to get a huge SEC victory, their second one of the season after beating Tennessee 2 weeks ago. So those are my Kody's covers week 5 college football. Let's go ahead to Kody's covers NFL week 4. We're going to start with the division game, and that's going to be the Seahawks at the Cardinals. And the Cardinals are currently a 1.5 point favorite in this game. I just think the Seahawks are a better team. I like the way Sam Darnold's playing. They absolutely hammered the Saints yesterday. They're running the ball really well with both their running backs, whether it's Kenneth Walker or Zach Charbonnet. Keep hearing the name Torrey Horton, their wide receiver, to go along with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Torrey Horton was one of the guys I was really high on coming out of Colorado State this past draft, so that's a name to keep looking out for and keep listening for. And I just think the Seahawks team's better. I think the Cardinals gave away a game yesterday. I don't know what's going on with Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't really know what's going on with Marvin Harrison Jr. He's really looking like a bust so far. So I think the Seahawks go into Arizona, which isn't the toughest place to play, and win and get a victory and cover. So give me the Seahawks +1.5, and I think I would sprinkle some money line on them as well. Then we have the Vikings versus the Steelers, and this is the Dublin game. And the Vikings are currently a 1.5 point favorite in this game. Now, my Patriots handed the Steelers a victory yesterday. 5 turnovers, 2 turnovers within the 5-yard line going to score. And the Steelers did nothing really well to win that game. Like I said, the Patriots just handed them that game. And the Seahawks, they're going to get after that offense. That defense of the Seahawks is going to, the Vikings, that defense for the Vikings and Brian Flores, their defensive coordinator, they're going to get after Aaron Rodgers. They're going to make his life miserable, and I think they win this game, and I think they could put it to the Steelers a little bit. So give me the Vikings to win. Give me the Vikings to cover. Vikings -1.5 is a play there. Then we have the Eagles at the Buccaneers. Eagles are currently a 2.5 point favorite. Both teams are 3-0. Both teams have kind of won all their games at the wire and had really close games. This Buccaneers team is probably the best team that no one's really talking about. Baker Mayfield, he's just a clutch player, and he just makes plays when he needs to. Now, the Mike Evans injury is questionable there. That's not great, but I still think the Bucs are really good at home. Baker Mayfield's playing really well. Emeka Egbuka, they have 2 good running backs in both Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. They need to get more consistent play from their defense, but I think the Eagles have had kind of that Chiefs magic of late recently. I think that runs out a little bit, and I think the Buccaneers get a big upset victory at home over the Eagles. So give me the Buccaneers +2.5, and I would like some money line on the Buccaneers as well. Then we have the Colts at the Rams, and the Rams are currently a 3.5 point favorite in this game. The Colts are without a doubt the best story in the NFL right now, and it's not even close, to be honest. Daniel Jones and the Colts are the best story going in the NFL, and they're playing really well. They're playing really well on offense. Their defense is sneakily playing very well as well. And the Rams, how do you bounce back from giving that game away to the Eagles? Do you bounce back and get a huge victory at home? Or do you kind of sputter around? Because they sputtered around in their 2 first games against the Texans and the Titans, both 0-3 teams. So I think the Rams win this game, but I think it's close, like a field goal game. So give me the Colts to cover, Colts +3.5, and wouldn't be shocked if the Colts go into LA and get a huge victory for their season as well. And then finally, we have the Ravens at the Chiefs, and the Ravens are currently a 2.5 point favorite in this game. Now, the Chiefs have historically owned the Ravens. They've beaten the Ravens in the regular season. They've beaten the Ravens in the postseason. They have absolutely owned it. Patrick Mahomes has owned Lamar Jackson. I think that changes. The Chiefs got a win last night, so they're not 0-3. They went to 1-2, but it was a very unimpressive win. The Giants are an awful team. Russell Wilson played absolutely awful, and I didn't really think there was much to impress me from the Chiefs the way they won their game last night. Now you come back home. The Ravens are a team. Now they will be on a short week and they will be on the road, so that is a question mark there. But the Ravens are a team. They know their identity. They know they want to run the ball down your throat, and their defense can get after you as well. I just don't think there's enough difference makers in this Chiefs team, especially on the offensive side, to really keep up with the Ravens scoring. So give me the Ravens to win, give me the Ravens to cover, and that would make the Chiefs fall to 1-3, and then we would have a major conversation there. Like I said, Ravens -2.5 to win and cover in this game. And that has been my Kody's Covers NFL Week 4. And that has been my show for today. Like I said at the beginning, if you like this show, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel here. However, if you prefer the audio version, please go ahead and subscribe to places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or pretty much wherever you get your podcast. Follow me on the social medias under Kody Dodier or under Sports Talk on a Budget. Thank you again for watching and listening, and have a great day.